dopamine, because it's a groove I talked about. You make a neurologic grooves in your brain that make you want just certain things for your arousal, and other things become less arousing. These become more arousing, those become less arousing. So what arouses you becomes very narrow and deep. It's difficult to get out of it. It's difficult to have other things arouse you. When you're watching porn, what you're doing is you're releasing dopamine. Yeah, it releases dopamine more so than most things. And dopamine is a pleasurable chemical in the sense that we want to get more and more of it, right? And it keeps us seeking. It's a hunting type of, constantly looking. And that's why porn is kind of insidious. They got all these scenes. You keep seeking for it and all this variety. And the more variety and the more extreme it is, the more dopamine gets released. And the reason that's an issue is because now releasing all that dopamine, you now need it. And the reason you need it, you start needing it, is because of those dopamine receptors. Okay. Let me make sure you're seeing, yeah, you are seeing it. So if you look in here, these dopamine receptors right here, they start getting hammered. Okay, because there's a bunch of dopamine being released, especially if you did it like I did, just hours at a time, just going with this stuff. You are hammering those things to where they just become desensitized, right? So you got a double whammy now when you go in the bedroom, because not only can she not produce the same amount of dopamine you're used to, because of all the extreme sex and all the variety of women you've been looking at that just can't help but cause your brain to release all this dopamine. She can't compete with that on that level. So she can't release that amount of dopamine that your brain is now used to, right? And now needs, and because now those receptors are so desensitized that what would be a normal amount of dopamine to get you very aroused in the past, now that amount of dopamine no longer is sufficient to trigger those dopamine receptors to get you the erections and to maintain the erections the way you want. Okay, I hope that makes sense. This is a huge part of this, is the dopamine here. And with that, there was a question I had a client ask me the other day, and I thought it was a good question, and it's related to this, and it's about dopamine. And that, what about other things? What about other things that are releasing the dopamine? Is that going to affect me as well? And the short answer is yes, maybe. And what I mean by that is there is a lot of things today in our modern world. I consider there's another modern day alpha inhibitor, is the super convenience we have. Like Netflix, we get instant gratification, dopamine. We get on our phones, we get social media alerts all the time, which gets us excited. We go check it out. Dopamine being released. All that stuff. We have way more dopamine being released in our systems today than probably any other time in history. Because our culture is designed around convenience and entertainment, right? So that's why we're getting so much dopamine. And yes, it will affect this system too. Okay, that's not good either. You want to try to minimize those things. Minimize the amount of time you're looking at your phone. Set aside a time a day. Minimize how many times you're getting and doing the Netflix stuff and all the stuff that's like instant gratification and gives you instant dopamine. You don't have to eliminate them altogether, but they do have an effect, but not nearly the effect that the porn does. And that's for a couple of reasons. One of which is the porn releases way more dopamine than those things. And on a very primal level, because sex is very primal, right? It's one of our body's main, drives is to procreate. Stay alive and procreate. That's the two basic ones, right? So it touches us on a very deep level. It gets the dopamine very deep level. But also, like I was talking about before, that dopamine is specifically released in regards to sex. And when you go into the bedroom, that's what you're going for, is sex. But now your dopamine receptors have been, and the dopamine system has been trained for something way more extreme than what you're probably doing in the bedroom. Okay. And I do encourage you to have a great sex life and go for all the things you want in porn in the bedroom. You guys make porn in the bedroom for yourselves. Okay. That's way better. Okay. That's going to work in your favor. But when you're, like I said, when you're doing this, you're training your brain and flooding it with dopamine, then go in the bedroom. You've already got notches against you. Right? Unlike our grandfathers who were just looking at naked women and then all of a sudden they got a naked woman in front of them. And they're like, yeah, let's go. Right? Because even when they were looking at those naked women, they were picturing themselves with that woman. With porn, you're watching women have sex with other men or other women, whatever, but sex with other people, right? Not with you. So you're becoming more of a voyeur. And I think I'll talk about that next because I had a woman that contacted me on this, and I thought it was very interesting. Her husband became addicted to porn as they were married, right? As they were married. And just like in my marriage, I could really understand this because a lot of the same dynamics play out. And maybe you're in a marriage or in a relationship that this is happening, where you first of all, start avoiding sex altogether. Like I noticed that I was having sex with my wife less. I was initiating it less. Same thing she was experiencing with her husband. Because once again, you're struggling a bit in the bedroom because you're not getting the dopamine. So no one wants to experience erection failures. It makes us feel bad as men, right? So we start avoiding those things. Plus it's so much easier, right? That's the insidious thing about it. That's why it's a convenience itself is kind of a modern day alpha inhibitor in and of itself because it creates so many side effects. Instead of seducing my wife and, easing into it, the foreplay and all this stuff and getting her aroused and me being aroused and all that, it's so much easier just to throw in the porn. Just say, I'm horny now. I just want to get this done. And then I'll move on and do something else. Same thing with him. He started to pull away. They were having sex less. But this is a very interesting thing that happened in their relationship is what I was just talking about before. When you're watching porn, you're watching other people have sex. You're training your arousal system to get aroused by watching other people have sex, not you having sex, right? Other people having sex, which is fine in and of itself, but you're never in the picture. So it affected him so deeply in that way that he got to a point where he just couldn't get hard anywhere near her, right? Any kind of situation he was in where he thought this may lead to them actually having sex, he would lose his erection. So the only way he could get an erection and maintain that erection and actually go to ejaculation with his wife was to watch his wife from a distance play with herself, right? He's a voyeur now. He's getting his arousal by watching other people have sex, or in this case, having sex with herself, right? Not being involved in there. So that is a portion of this porn addiction I don't think a lot of guys understand. And it definitely sets you up for that. Right? Versus our grandfathers, once again, we're looking at pictures of women and they were not engaged in sex. I mean, they were just nude women that were, they were attracted to, and they imagined themselves with those women. That's a whole different thing. Okay. Porn doesn't do that. Porn has like I said, much more insidious effect than that. What I want to say though, is that porn itself is not the problem. When it comes to getting throbbing, stage 4, rock hard on command, and lasting as long as you want in the bedroom, both permanently and naturally at any age, the first step is understanding exactly what is going on under the hood of your manhood. Because if a man doesn't understand the basic mechanics of how his manhood works, how can he expect anything he tries to work? He just ends up throwing punches in the dark, and then is frustrated when everything he tries stops working and makes his hardness and lasting power worse over time. Conveniently,
leading him to more and more extreme treatments that further destroy his manhood and his ability to perform in the bedroom. So if this is a priority for you and you would like to finally get off of Big Pharma's hamster wheel, keeping you trapped, broken, and desperate, then you're going to want to set aside about 75 minutes to watch this free training I made just for you that's going to allow you to finally understand the ecosystem behind your manhood and bedroom performance. Like fixing a leaky pipe, you can't just drywall over it or you'll end up with a house full of black mold. You have to fix the source of the leaky pipe if you want permanent results that will last a lifetime. So I put a link in the description to claim a 24-hour access pass to my new masterclass that will take you by the hand and show you exactly what's going on under the hood. So you can finally understand exactly what methodologies, frameworks, and systems that our guys are using right now to conquer their bedroom performance permanently and naturally at any age. So go ahead and click the link in the description and I'll see you inside the masterclass. Xander Holt, signing off.